In addition to your regular standard verbs, there's also a class of verbs referred to as deponent verbs. Now, the word deponent means to set aside, and what it has done is it's set aside its active voice. So the simple definition of a deponent is it is a verb that is passive in form but active in meaning. So, for example, the verb sequor, you'll notice the R ending there, looks passive, right? So if you had some active verb, sequo, the passive, the first person singular, would be sequor. Except that sequor means I follow. So it is passive in form, but active in meaning. I follow. And there are a number of verbs in this, and they all belong to different conjugations, all four conjugations. So keep this in mind. It is passive in form, active in meaning. That is, you will never find these verbs in the active form, right? So no active forms. And also, there is no way to form the passive. Right, so there are no passive meanings. That is, I cannot say, I am followed, all right, using this verb. We would have to use some other verb. So, how do you recognize deponent verbs? Well, let's take a look, and we'll go after these one conjugation at a time. But the first thing you should notice is that the first principal part of every passive, or of every deponent verb is going to end in OR. So if the dictionary has a verb that ends in OR, you know you're dealing with a deponent. Now, what conjugation does a particular verb belong to? Well, for that, just like with a regular verb, you're going to look at the infinitive, the second principal part. Now notice there's no, what we would look at as a third principal part, there's no perfect active. No perfect active because we don't have active forms. Okay, so back to how do we tell what conjugation a verb belongs to? Look to the infinitive, konari. Okay, so konor, konari. And if you remember, if we form a passive voice infinitive, we're going to change that final E to an I. So, wokari. So you see this ARI, and you know you're dealing in a first conjugation verb, as this is a passive infinitive. And this konor, konari, konato sum means to try. Fati, or the second conjugation, fati or fateri, notice the ERI, and if we had habeo, habere, there's the infinitive of habeo to form the passive. We change that final E to an I. So we've got a second conjugation. It means to confess, or to say, fati or fateri faso sum. The third conjugation, now, this is where it gets a little tricky. So if we remember ago, agere, third conjugation, there's the present infinitive, but to form the passive infinitive, we change this whole ERE to an I. So agi. Now, if we look at the deponent, sequor, sequi, look, there is no ER, as we had with fateri. So sequor, sequi, this must be third conjugation. Or gradi, gressa sum, this is a third, no ER, third I stem, gradior, gradi. So when you conjugate gradior, to step, to go, you're going to have an I in all of those forms. And then finally, fourth conjugation, just like the first and second, we had audio, audiri, audire, and to form the passive infinitive, we drop the final I to E to an I, and there we have it in our infinitive, experior, experire, expertus sum, to experience. So look to that infinitive. That will tell you what conjugation a verb belongs to, a deponent verb belongs to.